What if I told you Sonic Speed Simulator 2 might actually be closer than we think? Alright, hear me out on this one, because I know it sounds kinda crazy, but I actually think it makes a ton of sense. The more I've been looking at what the devs are doing, the more it feels like they're setting up for something bigger than just normal updates. So in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly why I think Sonic Speed Simulator 2 could actually happen, and if it does come to life, what it would look like and what it would feel like. This could completely change everything. I hope you enjoy, and with that, let's head straight into it. Alright, now the first big point I have that looks towards a Sonic Speed Simulator sequel is that the game has kind of been getting washed away. No, I don't just mean it's been getting washed away in popularity, but I genuinely think the devs have kind of taken their time and slowed down with updates. If you look at the pattern, right now, we only actually get new content-filled updates every 2 or 3 weeks, considering most of the updates are golden eggs or fast passes. And whilst yes, in part that is due to game fans' greed, I still think a small portion of that could be because the devs are putting their time towards something else. Remember when Pet Simulator 99 got announced that it would be slowing down its updates and having one update every 2 weeks instead of every week? Well, yeah, a while after that, a spin-off for the game released. Now, what if the Sonic Speed Simulator devs are working on another speed sim game? Or maybe even a separate spin-off? Next up, we have hype. If you don't know, Sonic Speed Simulator is the #1 branded experience on Roblox, and it is the first branded experience to hit 1 billion plays. That is a big achievement, and of course that is mainly because it uses the IP of Sonic. Like if we got a Mario Simulator, I'm sure that would also be really popular. And since we've seen the player counts dwindle and hit new lows recently, it just makes sense for them to give us a fresh new game. We could see mechanics, new features, and a ton of new stuff. Plus, if you look at the events themselves, there's a constant recurring theme that happens through most of them. Probably wondering what that theme is, and of course, it is reruns. Sure, we do get new updates with new things, and new mounts, and new skins. Like in the brand new Crossroads update, we got the Speedster Lightning, which is new. But the skin we got is old. Look, I'm all for reskins, and I'm happy because it means newer players can get those old skins, and it makes sure not much stuff stays rare. However, if you think about it, why wouldn't they add new skins? There isn't too much stopping them, especially if it's a reskin of an existing character. And what my idea is, they would keep the heavy hitters and main guys for Sonic Speed Simulator 2. Now, next up is probably one of the bigger reasons that there could be a sequel to the game, and it's performance and optimization. Yes, that one word everybody in the community hates because of how much it's been popping up in the update logs recently. If you didn't know, lots of lower end and mobile devices have been crashing, experiencing glitches, and having a ton of trouble handling the game because there's just so much going on. From all of the grass, to the animations, to the lobby, there's just been so much stuff. And the wider community has taken a toll off of that, because GameFam has started to remove different events that everybody loves, all for the purpose of optimization. Heck, a while ago, all of these secret worlds were removed, and they've only just recently been brought back. Greenport Island isn't here yet either. Now, no matter what they do, to get the game to run really well on mobile would mean to basically remove everything from spawn, to turn it into a blank canvas, maybe a little bit of green here and there. There's just no way to properly optimize it for the lowest end devices. So what would be better would be to start a new game with a new engine, or maybe even if it's an old engine, they can start new worlds from scratch that are basically redefined to be easier for mobile to run. Or they could do what other experiences do, where they ask if a user is playing on mobile or another device, and then it sets the game based on that. Also, as someone who plays a lot of Sonic Speed Simulator on iPad, I can say the game is already extremely limited. None of this grass is here. Heck, not even this like wooden bar thing is here. Literally none of this stuff is here. It just seems like an empty plane you don't see too far away. It's really annoying. And guys, don't worry, I don't have like an iPad mini 3, okay, chill. I have like an iPad Pro, so it should be able to handle this stuff. Yet GameFam just takes all mobile devices and cranks their quality down to the minimum. And now for one of the last reasons, remember when we got the first proper 3D Sonic game, Sonic Adventure? It's not like that was the priority for Sonic's 3D experience. It's not like that was the only 3D Sonic game. Now just switch the genres and instead of 3D, say online. This is one of the only proper online 3D Sonic games. Of course, we're not counting games like Sonic Racing Crossroads and other entries of that sort. This is the only game where we can run around, play with others, level up, have quests, achievements, all of that stuff, keeping part of the core Sonic gameplay and changing it up as well. Next up, let's move on to what a Sonic Speed Simulator 2 could look like. Now, starting off, let's look at what it would be called, because that's what we see every day, and a lot of people would instantly click to Sonic Speed Simulator 2, and that's what I've been referring to from this whole video. However, I've actually made a concept or a really cool name that the next Sonic Speed Simulator game could see, and as you guys can see, it is Sonic Speed Simulator Overdrive. I took some inspiration from how Sonic Speed Simulator was reborn, and now let's say it was put into Overdrive with a whole new mechanic system and all that. I am also open to suggestions, so if you guys want to see me make custom logos for Sonic Speed Simulator, let me know down below in the comments what you'd want to see. I might even make a whole video about that. Anyways, that's just putting the ideas out there. Sonic Speed Simulator 2 or maybe Sonic Speed Simulator Overdrive. I even have two concepts for what it would look like if it was called Sonic Speed Simulator 2. One with the 2 being in line with the actual game's logo, and one with the 2 being underneath. If you prefer the first option, click the like button. And if you prefer the second option, hit the subscribe button. I'll know which one is better. But next up, let's actually look at what this game would be like. Now, starting off, I would change quite a few things. First of all, clean up this horrible UI. I don't need 10 minutes of scrolling just to get to the bottom of the character page. Instead, what I would do is actually have a button, so basically every character's base form is visible. For example, here would be Sonic, here would be Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Shadow, all of that. Then you can actually click on each individual one and go into a separate tab with all their reskins. And for reskins of reskins, there could be even smaller tabs. However, I would have a much bigger focus on the Chow system and trails, and of course speed in general, as opposed to weekly updates. I would say maybe updates once per month. Yeah, that's right, once a month. But remember, this is still a Sonic game, and most mainline games don't get updates for months. So let's say we got an update once a month. Then it would be acceptable to see a Fast Pass added that lasts for a month, a limited golden egg set, and a new event with 3 or 4 new skins. Maybe a new mount each time, tons of new Chow, and a few trails. For the core movement system, I would actually say keep it the same. Like, look at this, all of the movement is super clean, fresh, and cut super smooth. It's really good considering this is a Roblox game. However, I would up the animations just a little bit. I know these are really good, they're realistic, they're cool, but I would suggest up them just a bit. And, make sure all characters are fairly included. That means Charmy, that means other characters that aren't Shadow. But next, let's move on to one of the things that make Sonic games iconic, the world. Now, I have a really unique opinion for what could happen in Sonic Speed Simulator 2, and that it could be an open world game. That's right, an open world game. And before you guys start yapping about that could not be handled on Roblox, hear me out. There are other games like Creatures of Sonoria, and I can't really name another few off the top of my head, but they have huge open worlds where you could explore and run around. And if you think about it, it could actually be really cool. Just look at Mario Kart World and how it blended together so many worlds and biomes. Imagine a similar thing for Sonic Speed Simulator. Let's say, for example, on this part of the map we have Snow Valley, maybe somewhere else we have Green Hill, maybe somewhere else we have Lost Valley, everything kind of fused together. I would recommend to bring back all of the worlds from Sonic Speed Simulator 1.0 except for Collab Worlds. Of course, we would still need Cyberstation because there are some skins that only work in Cyberstation, like Pixel skins, but who knows, GameFam could just remove that exclusivity label. Anyways, I would suggest Collab Worlds to be mini sort of themes. Maybe like if we added obbies back, Collab Worlds could be those little obbies. And instead, keep the majority of the world to be important Sonic areas like Labyrinth Zone, Chemical Plant, Green Hill, Lost Valley, all of those places. And for the classic worlds, don't worry, I'm not getting rid of them. what I would say is in each little mini zone in this open world area, we could get like a secret sort of challenge area, you know what I mean? Maybe if we had a green hill mini zone, behind the waterfall was the classic green hill. And instead of having the classic worlds from original Sonic Speed Simulator 1.0, they could have the worlds from Sonic Speed Simulator Reborn. And guys, look, if Sonic Speed Simulator was to get a sequel, I would ban trading. Yeah, I know, a ton of you guys love to be skin collectors, but it just makes the game really unbalanced. People spending millions of red star rings to get super rare skins, I just don't think it's fun. Instead, I would say that they regulate how much they bring skins back. Like maybe if some skin were added in January of 2026, it comes back around 5 months later. So let's say if a skin is added in January of 2026, maybe it comes out around July of 2026. Skins added in March would get added in September, and so on and so forth. It would mean there's always an equal time before skins come back and people aren't missing out. And then for the big one, races. Now look, Sonic Speed Simulator when it first came out, at its core was a racing simulator. Not a skin simulator, not a quest simulator, not any other simulator. It was a race simulator. You were supposed to do races, get fast, and have fun doing just that. So again, I would put that into a huge focus, make races a super duper big thing, races around this new open world and all of that. I would suggest they really delve their time into making good races. And look, these races are great. Like, the devs have proven they can make peak races when they put the effort in. Like, when GameFam allows them to do what they want, we get treasures like the Metal Harbor race or the Emerald Coast race. So, you know, just do that. Maybe limit races to a smaller zone in that huge world. Oh, and if you're wondering, I would name that island Speed Island. Yeah, it sounds cringe, but it would be really cool. Now, for the really big one, everybody didn't want me to discuss, and that's monetization. If a Sonic Speed Simulator 2 was to come real, I would only accept monetization if all of my previous points were followed. Like, if they decide to keep everything the same, small worlds, and still add monetization, it wouldn't make sense. It would be better for them to add big worlds, because then it means that money would actually need to go into something, funding better development. And you have to remember, I suggested updates would come out once per month. That means GameFam will be making very minimum money because they'd only be getting money at the start of each month, and after that it would die out. And honestly, if Sonic Speed Simulator 2 does take off as well as the original did, I would suggest Sega looking into making their own actual 3D online game. No, not like Sonic Rumble. I hate that game really badly, but not necessarily a platformer in general. Just imagine we had Sonic Speed Simulator outside of Roblox. Like, who knows, head into the App Store or the Play Store and just start vibing. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today on what Sonic Speed Simulator 2 could look like. This video took so long to prepare, so if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe because it's free, easy, and it'll help me out a ton on my journey to 10,000 subscribers. I suggest you click on one of the videos on screen because I'm absolutely sure you'd love them. See you in the next one. Bye, guys!